Welcome to TRN Podcast, episode 110. In these politically quite dynamic times in Germany, we're turning our attention today to a pretty significant upcoming change at the very top of the government. And you, our listeners, are probably well aware of the current developments. And, well, we wanted to offer some context today, maybe help frame the discussions that are happening.
Exactly. It looks very much like Friedrich Merz is set to become chancellor following the coalition agreement between the CDU-CSU and the SPD, a really pivotal moment for German politics.
Right. So our aim today is really to shed some light on the key issues that are likely to be discussed, particularly in the context of the Karen Mieska talk show featuring Friedrich Merz. We're basing this on the information and sort of the buzz around it beforehand. The idea is to give you some solid background, so whether you've already watched the interview or plan to, you can understand and place the discussion better.
So yeah, it definitely feels like Germany's on the verge of a pretty big political reset. That seems undeniable. After the previous traffic light coalition, the SPD, Greens, and FDP, we're now looking at another government formed by the CDU-CSU and the SPD.
And considering how often these two major parties have actually worked together in the past, it's not a massive surprise, is it? I think this would be the fifth time, potentially, that they formed a coalition. What does that history tell us? What might we expect?
That's a really good question. Historically, these grand coalitions have often been marked by a certain pragmatism, an effort towards broad political stability. But, well, they always carried the risk of blurring the profiles of the two main parties, potentially pushing voters towards smaller, more distinct parties. It'll be fascinating to see how that dynamic plays out this time. And right at the center of this new setup is Friedrich Merz, who's expected to be elected chancellor in early May 2025.
And Friedrich Merz, he's certainly no newcomer to German politics. He's been the leader of the CDU since January 2022, elected with a really commanding result, almost 95% of the delegate votes. What does that level of party support tell us?
Well, that overwhelming victory really signaled a clear desire within the CDU for a change in direction, both in terms of personnel and policy. After the Merkel years, many saw Merz as the one to perhaps bring a clearer, maybe more conservative line and sharpen the union's profile again. And since 2022, he's also held the crucial position of leading the CDU-CSU parliamentary group in the Bundestag. Plus, he was the leader of the opposition in the 20th German Bundestag, and of course the union's candidate for chancellor in the 2025 federal election. That's quite a lineup of responsibilities.
His political career goes back much further, though. He joined the CDU way back in 1972, was active in the European Parliament, that was 89 to 94, and spent many years in the German Bundestag, from 94 to 2009, and then back again since 2021. That's a long time shaping the political landscape.
Absolutely. And something people might forget, or perhaps it's not top of mind, is that he was actually parliamentary group leader for the union once before. That was from 2000 to 2002. That earlier experience in such a key parliamentary role likely informs how he approaches things today.
And then there was that notable period where he stepped back from frontline politics and moved into the private sector. He worked as a lawyer, held various supervisory board positions, including, famously, at the German branch of BlackRock. How might that time outside politics have shaped his perspective?
That's a really important point. His time in the business world undoubtedly gave him a different lens on economic matters and corporate challenges. Those experiences might well feed into his political agenda now, especially when it comes to strengthening Germany as a business location. Interestingly, he tried unsuccessfully to become party leader twice before, in 2018 and 2021. It finally worked on the third attempt. Shows remarkable persistence.
During the election campaign, Friedrich Merz really hammered home the message of a Politikwechsel, a policy change. That was a central theme. But what does that actually mean in practice when we look at his specific proposals?
Yes, and he staked out some clear positions there. That included a more restrictive migration policy, abolishing the Bürgergeld or citizens' income, which is, a form of basic social security, and very clear support for Ukraine. These points were prominent in the public debate and really reflect the priorities he seems intent on setting.
In the February federal election, the CDU and CSU together secured 28.6% of the vote. That's obviously a key result, forming the basis for the incoming government. How do you read that election result in the context of the policy shift he's aiming for?
Well, that result is a clear signal that a significant portion of the electorate wants a change in policy and supports the positions put forward by Merz and the union. At the same time, though, it also shows there isn't an overwhelming majority for this specific course, which, in a coalition government, will naturally lead to compromises. Now, turning to that Karen Mioska talk show, broadcast on April 13th, 2025, the title was very pointed. Is this how your policy change is going, Mr. Merce? Pretty direct, challenging stuff.
Exactly, and that's surely what the show dug into. Karamiaska would have pressed him very concretely on his plans and his answers to pressing domestic and foreign policy challenges. It must have been fascinating to see how he plans to translate his vision of a policy change into governmental reality.
Some of the core questions likely at the forefront would be how Friedrich Merz intends to win back public trust, because the political landscape is still quite fragmented and, frankly, uncertain. Then there's the issue of how he plans to strengthen the economy, facing global headwinds and major transformations, and also what role Germany will play in European and international politics going forward, especially concerning security policy.
You can almost feel the high expectations voters have for this new government, can't you? Especially compared to the previous traffic light coalition, which, well, faced its share of internal tensions and challenges.
And Merz's promised policy changes are naturally front and center. People in Germany are really focused on issues like economic development, migration, and security, both internal and external. There's a real demand for clear answers and convincing solutions in these areas.
For anyone who might have missed the show or wants to catch up, just the details again. Karen Mioska with Friedrich Merz aired on Sunday, April 13th, 2025 at 9:45 p.m. on Das Erste, the main public channel ARD, if you missed that initial broadcast.
There were also several repeat showings. On Monday, April 14th, it was repeated on NDR, ARD itself, Phoenix, and Tagesschau 24, and then again on Tuesday, April 15th on 3SAT. So plenty of chances to see the discussion.
And Karen Mioska herself is, of course, a very well-known figure in German television. She was a long-standing and influential anchor for the main news program Tagesthemen. She took over the primetime political talk slot from Anne Will in 2024 with her own show. She's known for her sharp, critical questioning.
So wrapping up, it's clear Germany is entering a really interesting political phase. The changing government with Friedrich Merz likely at the helm and the associated expectations of a policy shift are the central narratives right now. The Karen Mioska interview certainly offered a key platform to scrutinize the designated chancellor's plans and responses to the major challenges. It remains to be seen, of course, how the new government under his leadership will actually take shape.
Exactly. And thinking about that long history of CDU-CSU and SPD coalitions, alongside Friedrich Merz's specific policy proposals, maybe we can leave our listeners with a question to ponder. What do you think will be the biggest hurdles and perhaps the most significant opportunities for this new government? It's definitely worth keeping an eye on the different perspectives and potential paths forward and forming your own view. Thanks for tuning in to TRN Podcast, episode 110.